In the quaint, peaceful town of Fair Oaks, the sun shone brightly, casting long, eerie shadows on the old houses. The town was filled with laughter and the hustle and bustle of everyday life. In the heart of the town, three childhood friends, Jenny, Sarah, and Alex, gathered in the attic of the grand Victorian-era house belonging to Jenny's family. The attic, a sanctum of their shared childhood memories, was filled with antique furniture, dusty books, and mysterious artifacts. Among those artifacts, a massive ancient mirror with an ornately carved frame held a strange fascination for them. Jenny, with her freckled face and wild curls, was the adventurous spirit of the group. She loved the attic, with its mysterious aura and the stories it held. That day she stumbled upon, "Listen to this, guys," Jenny called out, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "It says here about a woman named Mary, who was wrongly accused of witchcraft and executed. They say her spirit lurks in mirrors, waiting for her name to be called out 3 times. Only then can she cross over to our world to seek vengeance." She looked at her friends, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. Sarah, the skeptic among them, brushed off her messy hair from her eyes, scoffed, and rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on, Jenny. That's just a scary tale. Don't tell me you believe in this nonsense." Alex, the quiet and thoughtful one, didn't dismiss it outright. "Well, every tale has its roots in some reality," he mused, casting a glance at the grand mirror standing silently in the corner. The air in the attic felt heavy, and the mirror, with its opaque glass and ornate frame, felt more ominous. It seemed to be gazing back at them, reflecting more than their frightened faces, as if it was hiding deep, dark secrets, waiting to be awakened. Little did they know, their innocent curiosity was about to lead them to a terrifying encounter that would change their lives forever. As the sun surrendered to the night, the friends gathered once again in the ancient attic. An array of lit candles, their wavering glow illuminating the dust-laden room, stood solemnly around the mirror. The atmosphere was dense with a mixture of anticipation and a chilling, unnamed fear. "Are we really going to do this?" Sarah's usually confident voice wavered, her skepticism replaced by apprehension. "Come on, Sarah, don't tell me you're scared of a ghost story," Jenny said, a mischievous spark lighting up her eyes. Alex, a loyal bystander until now, was lost in contemplation. The mirror looked even more daunting in the candlelight. Its ornate frame seemed alive with crawling shadows, the darkness within it so profound that it felt like an abyss. Undeterred by the eerie ambiance, Jenny started chanting Bloody Mary while staring into the mirror. As her voice echoed around the attic, each utterance felt like a blasphemous invitation to the unknown. "Bloody Mary." The wind howled outside, a mournful wail that seemed to resonate with the incantation. A shiver ran down their spines. "Bloody Mary." The temperature in the room plummeted. Their breaths materialized in front of them. The candles flickered violently, and the mirror's surface shimmered as if disturbed by an unseen force. "Bloody Mary." A deafening silence followed. The very air seemed to hold its breath. Suddenly the mirror rippled, and a pale hand reached out from the void, the nails long and bloody. The candles extinguished simultaneously, plunging the room into a darkness that seemed alive and sentient. They felt it before they saw it, an icy breath caressing their necks, the gut-wrenching stench of rot, the palpable malevolence that filled the room. Then they heard it, a woman's laugh, low and mocking, resounding in the dark attic. The reality of what they had done sunk into their hearts. They had awakened Bloody Mary, and the terror of her presence was a cold, clawing dread that threatened to consume their sanity. It was no longer a game or a ghost story. It was a horrifying reality. And then a voice, chilling and venomous, echoed in the room. "You called me?" The terror of the moment was a palpable entity, a shroud that wrapped around them, stifling their screams and turning their blood to ice. The night was still young, and they were trapped in their self-inflicted nightmare with a vengeful spirit. As fear constricted their hearts, and the room resonated with Mary's malevolent laughter, they knew their lives would never be the same again. They had ventured into a realm they shouldn't have, and the consequences were more terrifying than they had ever imagined. The darkness in the attic was an oppressive, almost tangible entity. The only sound was the harsh rhythm of their breathing, the terror in the room so tangible that it felt like another presence amongst them. Without warning, a burst of frigid wind swept through the attic, extinguishing the last flickering candle and showering the friends in an icy chill. The darkness deepened, taking on a sinister life of its own, pulsing and swirling around them. Then, the mirror began to glow with an unholy light. A silhouette formed, a woman dressed in tattered clothing, her hair matted with dried blood. Her face was once beautiful, but was now marred by deep, ragged scratches and a maniacal grin that sent a bolt of dread coursing through their veins. Bloody Mary. Her voice was an ear-piercing shriek that resonated around the attic, a vile symphony of agony and revenge. Her eyes, glowing with an otherworldly light, bore into them, a predatory gaze filled with malevolent glee. The room seemed to spin as a sense of vertigo hit them. They were trapped in the nightmarish reality of their own creation, their terror amplifying Mary's power. The stench of decay and old blood filled their nostrils, a potent reminder of Mary's violent past. Suddenly, Mary lunged at them, her spectral form passing through the furniture as if it was mere smoke. Her icy fingers brushed against their skin, an unnatural coldness that seemed to seep into their very souls. Each touch was a torment, 1,000 needles of ice biting into their flesh. Her laugh, a horrifying cackle, echoed in the room as she relished their fear. They could feel her unholy energy all around, a predatory entity playing with its newfound victims. Jenny's voice caught in her throat as she tried to scream, but no sound came out. Sarah clung to Alex, her usually vibrant eyes wide and filled with raw terror. In the heart of the nightmare, they could feel their courage dwindling. Every breath was an act of defiance, every heartbeat a battle against the paralyzing fear. The room, once their sanctuary filled with happy memories, was now a haunting playground for the vengeful spirit they had unwittingly unleashed. And the night was far from over. The full force of Mary's wrath was yet to be seen. Their nightmare was just beginning, and the chilling reality of their predicament was more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The encounter with the Phantom was a terrifying game of cat and mouse, where the stakes were their very lives. In the days that followed their harrowing encounter, an oppressive gloom descended upon the trio. Once carefree, their lives were now dictated by an unshakable fear. The visage of Bloody Mary, with her menacing smile and bloodied claws, haunted their waking hours and their troubled dreams. Every reflective surface became a source of terror. Mirrors were shrouded in cloths, the surface of still water avoided, and even the gleam of a knife was enough to send them spiraling into panic. The fear of seeing Mary's terrifying reflection lurk behind their own was an ever-present dread. At night they would hear phantom footsteps, see fleeting shadows out of the corners of their eyes, and feel icy fingers tracing down their spines. Their homes, once sanctuaries, now felt like haunted tombs. No one else in Fair Oaks could see or feel Mary's presence. The curse was their cross to bear. But the true horror came one night when Jenny woke up to see Mary's ghostly figure at the foot of her bed. The room was chillingly cold, the air thick with the scent of decay. The spirit pointed a bloody finger at Jenny and whispered, "Soon," before disappearing. The chilling encounter left Jenny hysterical, her frantic calls bringing Sarah and Alex rushing over. What followed was a desperate search for a solution. They sought out clergymen, paranormal experts, and even a psychic medium in a desperate attempt to break the curse. However, Mary's laughter seemed to follow them everywhere, a chilling reminder of their plight. One day, in the library's dimly lit corner, they found an old manuscript. It was a record of witch trials and mentions of a woman named Mary, executed for witchcraft. Alongside the text was a sketch, an exact likeness of the ghost that haunted them. Below the sketch was a small note, a possible lifeline in their sea of despair. To banish the specter, one must face it in the place of summoning, accept its wrath, and beg for mercy. The friends shared a look of understanding and terror. They would have to face Bloody Mary once again, in the attic of Jenny's house, the epicenter of their nightmare. Their hearts pounded in their chests at the thought. the horrifying prospect sending a wave of icy dread through them. But it was a chance they had to take, for the alternative was far more terrifying. With their course set, the trio steeled themselves for what lay ahead. They knew the path to salvation was through the terror that had besieged them. They spent the daylight hours in fevered preparation, gathering everything they believed they might need, from holy water to talismans. As dusk fell, they found themselves once again in the musty attic. The grand mirror, their once innocent fascination, now loomed like a harbinger of doom. They lit the candles, their wavering light throwing grotesque shadows around the room. Every creak of the old house, every gust of wind made their hearts race. The anticipation of what was to come was almost as terrifying as the ordeal itself. Slowly, with a sense of finality, Jenny stepped forward and began the incantation, her voice trembling in the silent room. As she spoke Mary's name, the room grew cold, and the once reflective mirror turned dark, a shadowy void. A sense of déjà vu washed over them, a replay of their earlier recklessness. But this time, they were not guided by curiosity, but a desperate hope for redemption. Bloody Mary! The wind howled in response, rattling the attic windows. Jenny's voice wavered but continued, each repetition like a drumbeat counting down to their confrontation. Bloody Mary! The temperature dropped further, and their breaths fogged in the freezing air. The mirror rippled, and Mary's figure started to form within the glass, her vengeful eyes glaring at them. Bloody Mary! An unnatural silence descended as Mary emerged, her spectral figure even more terrifying than they remembered. Her hollow laughter echoed around them, and the room filled with the foul scent of decay. With a deep breath, Jenny stepped forward, her hands clutching a silver crucifix. "We're sorry, Mary. We didn't understand. Please, we beg for your mercy." Her plea echoed through the room, filled with desperate sincerity. Mary's laughter grew louder, a chilling sound that filled the room. Her phantom gaze met theirs, and in her eyes they saw a wrath born of unjust pain and untold suffering. Their plea had been made, but would it be enough to placate the wrathful spirit? Or had they merely invited more terror upon themselves? As they stood in the chilling presence of Bloody Mary, they could only wait, their hopes hanging by a fragile thread. In the deafening silence that followed Jenny's plea, time. Then, to their surprise, Mary's chilling laughter faded. She stepped forward, the room growing colder with her proximity. She turned her gaze towards Jenny, her eyes gleaming in the candlelight. Jenny met her stare, her body shaking, yet her gaze remained firm. "True remorse," Mary murmured, her voice a cold wind swirling around them. "A rare human trait." Sarah clutched Alex's hand tighter, her eyes wide with terror and hope. Alex could only stare at the spectral figure, his mind racing with the impending consequences of their actions. Mary moved closer to Jenny, the room dropping several degrees. "Your innocence was your folly, but your courage is your redemption," she said, her icy breath caressing Jenny's face. The mirror behind Mary started to shimmer, an ethereal light pulsating from within. With one last look, Mary turned towards the mirror. As she stepped into it, the glass rippled like water, her figure dissolving into the light. With a final whisper of, "Be free," she vanished, leaving behind an echoing silence. The friends stood stunned, their breaths ragged and bodies trembling. The oppressive fear that had plagued them lifted, replaced by a newfound tranquility. The room warmed, and the mirror regained its ordinary reflection. They had faced their terror, atoned for their naive curiosity, and came out alive. The haunting visage of Bloody Mary was gone, her curse lifted. Their homes were safe, their lives their own once again. Despite the calm, the memory of their ordeal lingered. They learned a valuable lesson about the weight of their actions and the dangers of taking legends lightly. The town of Fair Oaks returned to its peaceful rhythm, oblivious of the chilling drama that had unfolded. The attic was once again a place of fond memories, the mirror a harmless relic of the past. Yet when the wind howled and the night fell, they couldn't help but remember the ghostly figure who had once been more than a reflection.